Hello, Melissa Crook here from the Field Podcast. So glad to have you here with us this week. On today's episode on the Field Podcast, we've got Tara Mae Temple with us, with her episode titled being From Expectations to Empowerment, Tara Mae Temple's Journey. When learning to live out of your own expectations, start asking yourself questions to get to know yourself better and know what you truly desire. Think of this as you sit in silence, meditate, journal, pray, or any other acts that allow you to consider the expectations of your authentic self so that you know that what you are asking of yourself is truly coming from you and not other people's expectations or other narratives that you heard that aren't actually what you desire. And then you got to communicate those as well to those around you. We hope this helps you engage today with this episode with our friend Tara Mae Temple, From Expectations to Empowerment, her journey. Thanks so much for being with us. Hello, Field Podcast audience. Welcome back this week. I have a friend here with me today that if you listen to our radio show in 2024, you will have heard her voice. And she joined me on a couple of really intentional conversations in the fall. And we'll talk more about that later. So she is not new to the network, but she's new to the podcast. Met her through our good friends at Podmatch. Thankful for all the connections I'm able to make there. Tara Temple is here today. Tara, welcome to the Field Podcast.
Well, thank you, Melissa. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to have a conversation with your listeners and you.
I am too. This is going to be great, and you're going to have so much to say. Your story ties in so succinctly with what it is we talk about here. And Tara describes herself as kind, spiritual, loyal, passionate, and caring. And those things really come through. I've had the opportunity to talk to you a few times already via our platforms, and those things really come through as people listen to you. You're very insightful, you're very intuitive. And so I'm really excited to share your voice, your resources, and your story here with us today. I think you're just going to have so much to say about these talking points, but let's get right into it.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to giving people out there a bit of inspiration, especially right now in our world. I know everybody needs it.
Yes. So true. So true. And Tara is joining me from the Ontario spot of Canada, our good friends to the north. And she's trying to stay warm up there right now as we're recording in the wintertime.
It's cold. A lot of snow.
Yeah. So I'm thankful to have her voice here with me today. But Tara, talk to me about, let's start with your journey with prioritizing self-care in your life. This is something you had to go through some bumps to realize how important it was to you. So talk to me about your journey with self-care.
Yes. So I'd say about 5-6 years ago, I'd like to do things like yoga and exercise, but sometimes that would drop off the radar, especially with raising a young child. So I would prioritize being a mother first and take care of my family and being a career woman at the same time. So I was in the corporate world at the height of my career. In fundraising and marketing. And basically I had my dream job. I thought, I was making a lot of money, pretty much the most money I ever had in the span of my career. And I was starting to develop people. I had a team that was underneath me and I was the leader. So I thought, what a great way to make a living. I'm working for a hospital. I'm helping raise money. I love this because I'm helping people indirectly, helping to save lives indirectly by raising money for healthcare.
Yeah.
So I thought, that was all great and everything, but it got to a point where I was just not feeling right in my body. I felt very,
Mhm.
I was feeling sick, overrun, burnt out, stress building up, while having to manage career and family. So it got to a point where I did have a health scare during
Mhm.
the peak of my career. Obstacles were piling up everywhere in terms of dealing with people at the office. And no
Mhm.
matter what I did to find solutions to conflict, solutions to misunderstandings, and solutions to just working better with people, nothing
Mhm.
seemed to be working. It seemed like the
Mhm.
universe and God was telling me, like, you're not meant to be here. Um,
Mhm.
it didn't feel like it was the right place for me. I felt like, like I'm meant to be somewhere else. My heart wasn't in the job. I got to a point where I was like, oh, why am I feeling miserable like this? And um, so I was going through some health stuff, and I realized, like, I need to step back and really assess what's happening here.
Mhm.
Um, and if I don't have my health and I can't think straight and there's brain fog and it's
Yeah.
affecting all my systems, my mind, body, and spirit, um, if I don't do something to fix this right now, then not only is my career in jeopardy, but my family and my relationships are also in jeopardy.
Mhm.
So I had to make that realization. And I thought, where would my family be without me? So uh, basically had to prioritize my family first and health. At the start of 2020, I made
Mhm.
changes, really assessed my environment, and decided to leave my career, although that was
Mhm.
bittersweet. Leaving income on the table, deciding to relocate and get out of the city and live somewhere in a small town where, there wasn't so much noise pollution and it didn't feel chaotic and like it was suffocating my soul.
Yeah.
So I really undergo like a really intense self discovery when we did move. And I always say things happen for a reason. It was around the time the pandemic was starting, lockdown was on its way, and we were just saying we need to get out of here. We didn't know how we were going to make it happen, but I'm a very spiritual and person that believes in God and in fate. So I thought it was our destiny. We might as well pursue getting out of the city in however way we can.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we looked at our options. We sold our place in the city and then moved down here. And I got in touch with nature again. Got in touch with
Mhm.
how I was feeling and self care. And I realized I started showing up a lot more differently with my family. I wasn't so short or angry when I
Mhm.
began to take care of myself. So I made lifestyle changes and prioritized my health as well. And it wasn't easy because that was out of my comfort zone. Like, I was a career woman for several years, and wanted to have that stability and income for my family. But, everything was pretty much showing up in my path telling me you're meant to go somewhere else. And
Yeah.
through that journey, I found my love for writing again,
Mhm.
and really got into the publishing world and helping other nonfiction authors edit their books. And along the journey during the pandemic into, I think it took me 2 or 3 years to write my own story. I wrote a teaching
Mhm.
memoir about the lessons I've learned in my life
Mhm.
and how can I develop these strategies to help other women and other people achieve inner peace. And by writing that story out, sharing my wisdom through the messages in that book, I
Mhm.
really hope to inspire other women to know that, it's within your reach to find your potential and your peace. So I knew deep in my heart since I was a young girl, I've always wanted to help people
Mhm.
suffer less.
Mhm.
And I just know that it's my mission to be here to put my message out and my story out to help
Mhm.
others.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So powerful and a lot of courage wrapped up in that. Because you walked away from a very well paying, very financially stable job. And so many times we just keep pushing through because we're afraid. We're afraid and we don't listen to the cues our body's giving us. Your story is so deeply entrenched in taking care of our emotional and physical health, our mental, emotional, spiritual, all those pieces. You've just described that talking point we talk about here very succinctly and the direct tie it had to your wellness and your self care. Um, what is it that you think gave you what in your background gave you that wisdom and insight to know you needed to listen? Because so many times as women, we keep pushing the voices away. So talk to me about your ability to really respond to that.
Yes. So, growing up, I've seen a lot of my caregivers, a lot of women self abandon themselves for the sake of the
Mm,
family, cooking, working, making an income while taking care of the household and raising children. And
mhm.
I've seen how much self abandonment can weigh on, family members' mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical state. I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of them have health scares as well.
yeah.
So when seeing that, I've seen a lot of suffering in that way. And when, you know, is I come, well, my caregivers come from a generation where they're just used to caring for others. They
Mhm.
put their family first. And I highly regard that and admire that. But what they didn't know is they didn't have the tools and, the knowledge that we share so freely today that was within our fingertips. They didn't have it back then. So
Yeah.
they don't know any better about self-regulation and taking care of your health and not self-abandoning. And also they didn't know boundaries were non-existent.
Exactly. Speak to that. Speak to the boundaries piece here or the lack thereof.
Yes. So basically what I saw is like when I saw, friends or family members that had lack of boundaries, I pretty much witnessed a lot of, strife. You could tell that they're overwhelmed and weighed down.
Mhm.
And that it was creating tension and resentment between relationships.
Yeah.
Um, and that builds up over time. And when you don't know how to create a healthy boundary, you're really self abandoning yourself. And that can get you into a lot of health issues, inner conflict.
Yeah.
And you don't have peace of mind.
Yeah.
You're constantly on the go, taking care of everyone else and putting everyone's needs first. Um, so it's definitely something I wish my older generations of women in my family knew how to do better. And yes, and it's only because I say that because I care about them, and
Mhm.
I feel bad that they didn't have access to the content and resources about living healthy and putting yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you just tied in beautifully our first three talking points and how they're connected, how they're interrelated, the power of them, and just, breaking generational cycles is such an important piece of what you saw. You're like, I've seen this, how this plays out. This is not a road I'm going to continue down for myself. I knew when I was younger, I wanted better. Now I've got a chance to do something about it. So I'm going to take the necessary steps, maybe as scary as they mean, but I know I don't want to end up where I saw their lives go, where that continual self abandonment, what it costs your health, what it costs your relationships. There's so many tie ins to that. And that's all part of our self care. I say often self care is health care, it's caring
Yeah.
for yourself. Yes, we like to do the nice, fun things, the spas and the bubble baths and all those things are great. But it's
Mhm.
beyond that. It's tending and listening to your body when it's giving you
Mhm.
clues, and looking at the generations that are older than you, and like, oh, wait a minute. I see what's happening here. I'm going to learn
Mhm.
from this. I'm going to do better for myself, which is then going to be better for my child, because she's going to see this as possible. And I'm going to not, so thank you for all of that. That was really so well explained. So talk to me about your own boundaries. You got to this point, you realized you need to make changes. You moved, you got back out to nature. Talk to me now about where when you decided to make these moves. These are big moves.
Mhm. Yes.
Talk to me about communicating this need to do this to your family. Because you're like, okay, guys, we're heading out. we're getting out of
Yeah.
the city. Your workspaces. Oh, talk to me about that. Establishing those because you said it. So boundaries are for our self-preservation. They're so we don't abandon ourselves. They're not walls. They're not these big bricks and mortar. They're guideposts and spaces where we are able to protect our time and our bandwidth to make sure we can fill our cups and come back as our healthiest, most authentic selves in all the spaces we inhabit. But what was it like communicating this to people?
Oh, yes. So, basically, you know what? I got to a point where I was so consumed with making myself and my family happy and joyful and healthy that it no longer, took up my mind space about what others would think about this situation.
Mm,
I say, let it be. I used to be the type of person many years ago before I healed, where worried about what others thought.
yeah.
But um, you know, we're in the state of the world when the pandemic was just beginning and people were afraid
Yeah.
for their lives. So people were uncertain, right? So people are
Right.
stuck in their own fear, in their own, um, you know, insecurities and uncertainties that I, my husband and I just need to move ahead on this plan. And we felt
Mhm.
so comfortable about it. And
Mm,
we thought, we're doing this for our daughter's future and for our
yeah.
family's future. So it was really, you know, something that we just went full steam ahead on, and
Mhm.
I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
So it took some planning, but we like to plan, and it took some exploring during a time when it was very dark for people. People were getting sick.
Mhm.
A lot of lives were lost. I acknowledged that suffering when it was happening, but it felt
Yeah.
like almost like the Twilight Zone where I
Yeah.
was, you don't know what's going to happen in the world. So I felt like I was, let's just go for this dream of getting a house out of the city and, you know, living in a totally different environment. It's kind of like pressing reset. And in a
Yeah.
time where people were clicking reset on their lives during lockdown,
Mhm.
we were pretty much resetting everything. So that was very helpful to do. And then in terms of the boundaries, like you said, it's so true that you need to protect your time and your
Mhm.
safety.
Mhm.
And that needs to be communicated clearly with family and friends. And over time, like when you first start learning how to instill those boundaries, you're going to
Mhm.
feel a little bit guilty at first, as I did,
Mhm.
because you're so used to like not caring about your own feelings that
Yeah.
um
That
that
self-abandonment piece.
yes, it feels uncomfortable because you're putting that boundary in place, but at the same time you feel guilty because you feel like you're leaving those people in the dark, kind of just saying
Mhm.
the hell with you. But you do it in a nice way, in an assertive way, and you make it very
Yeah.
simple without having to explain yourself, and learning just to say no as a complete sentence, and just being clear about what you want. Like, for example, at night, after I have my nightly shower and dinner's over and everything, my family knows not to go into my room after I have my shower because they know that's my meditation time. So I've just said to
Mm-hmm.
them, I'd like to make a simple request that you guys don't come in the room while I'm doing my meditation.
Mm-hmm.
That's my time to refuel my mind, body, spirit. So they
Yeah.
know that.
I love
Yes.
that. That's a great example. That is a really
Mhm.
great example. And the way you state it, and I love how you talked about don't need to over explain. I need to do for this for my wellness, my health. Those that authentically care about you and want you to be well are going to come around. Even if it takes some time for them to get used to the new boundary, they will come around because they want you to be well too. If they don't come around, that might be an indication of a different boundary around that relationship. I mean, these are all opportunities to learn about that. And I think for so many people, and it's sad to me. And I think what I'd love to see us get past by using these frameworks that you and I are talking about here and that we talk about on the podcast regularly is time and time again, not only personal like roadblocks that we run into with our health, but for so many in the world, and especially I think in North America and Europe, it took this massive catastrophic event of COVID to get people to sit down long enough to consider that they might need a reset, that they might need to look at how they're spending their time and who they're giving their time to, valuing these relationships, because all of a sudden people were being lost that no one ever thought they were going to be losing in that time span. So it
Yes.
really forced us to face some hard truths. I would love us to get to a point where it doesn't take something really difficult or catastrophic in your life personally or on a world scope, global scope, to make us sit back and listen. Let's put these
Mhm.
frameworks in place now. Let's value ourselves and our relationships and our life enough now to not need to hit this. But because you go back to how you saw women operating as you grew up, the scripts we get as little girls. I mean, we get these collectively as women, but
Mhm.
then there's another level depending on your background, your faith space, your ethnicity, your socioeconomic space. All these things, play into the depth and the intensity of these messages that we get about taking care of everyone else and prioritizing yourself is selfish and all these really backwards ways of thinking. But when they're
Yes.
so ingrained,
Mhm.
it's really hard. You talked about feeling guilty at first. It's really hard to get that mind shift going. And it takes
Right.
time and practice to convince your nervous system, oh, no, this is good. We're on a
Yes.
good path
Mhm.
here. And it also
Mhm.
takes people time that didn't operate that way and may not understand it and may be fearful of your choices and what they mean, instead of realizing, no, this is actually healthy. And just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it's the healthiest way to go. Do you have
Exactly. And
anything
you
you want
make
to
a
add?
good point there
Yeah,
because
talk
you
about
know
that.
what? You're so right about people like the older generations being stuck in their ways and having traditional ways of thinking, not being really open to anything, almost like being closed minded, not in a bad way, but just being used to what they're used to. So if someone does something of a younger generation, their family that is out of the norm, not within their expectations,
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely going to throw them off. But if you're authentic to yourself, you're being true to your heart, your soul, and you're doing it for the good of your own mental health and well-being. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're going to disappoint people, but you have to realize that's part of life. And if they're going to
Yeah.
be disappointed in what you're doing to make yourself better, then they're just going to have to stay that way, and you're going to have to let go of what they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
So when you let go of what how others perceive you, that creates more space and freedom for you to be who you
Mm,
are in this world. You're not fitting
yeah.
this mold of what they want you to be. And then, if you start to shed those expectations of our different roles that we play,
Mm-hmm.
and not hold on to them so much, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm a daughter, or like, I'm a grandchild and I'm not fulfilling my responsibilities as those roles. That puts more pressure on you as a person. And
Yeah.
if you just take the pressure away and try not to take your roles too seriously, even though it is important to take care of your family and be caring. Don't do it at the expense of your own mental, emotional, and spiritual, physical health, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
You said that so well. So good. And this really has enabled you to really show up unapologetically for yourself. And now you're supporting and providing resources to other women to do so. But it's that when we are well, then it's better for everybody else. And we need to really start shifting our mindsets as a culture to see that when we're taking care of ourselves and prioritizing our wellness, everybody wins. And if you view it as a loss, then that's something you need to work through. Like if someone is pushing back or not responding well to these changes, it's not your responsibility to change their mind. It's not your
exactly. Save
responsibility.
your energy.
Exactly. To
Yes.
force them into something they're not ready for. That's their work to do. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward with what you know is healthiest for yourself. So, really well said on that. Talk to me about that unapologetic piece. You mentioned earlier the freedom that when you release other people's expectations and you release those things that you have been trying to live by to keep everybody else well but abandon yourself, it really does free you up to be authentic to you. You got back to your writing, you got back to helping others with their writing. You've got resources via books and journals now available for women. When talking to me about that transition of like, wait a minute, I am not only helping myself here by making these changes, I can help others too. And that's really always been within me. Talk to me about moving into that space.
Yes, it took a lot of self-discovery, but when began writing my story and the lessons I've learned throughout different points of my life,
Mm-hmm.
I realized this is just not for me to keep. This is for me to teach other people,
Mm-hmm.
through my website, through social media, and through these podcasts, ways in which you could really find inner peace. And it's my mission to do that because I care about people and I see the
Mm-hmm.
suffering,
Yeah.
that people experience. I feel that energy of, struggles that people go through. Um, and pretty much we have universal themes that we all go through in our lives, whether that be grief, identity crisis, relationship issues, with either friends or family, or parental relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and also like self-identity issues as well,
Mm.
and power, status, wealth, and ego. Everyone has a
Yeah.
dark side and a good side. So I realized, this is something I really need to disseminate and find a framework, um, to find simple ways and simple strategies that people can, implement in their lives in small steps to find
Mm.
just a little bit of peace if they're, not ready to go on a full healing journey.
Yeah.
Because there's little bits and pieces and glimmers of hope in our everyday journey. And if you
Mm.
just, do something for yourself that makes you joyful, without worrying about what others are going to think of you, or if without worrying about being judged, and just doing things for yourself, that
Yeah.
creates a lot of freedom and peace.
Mm.
So yeah, I'd love to write about strategies on how to help people cope with these different life challenges,
Mhm.
in different stages and phases of their life. And it's all about mindset reframing, assessing your environment to promote healing,
Mm.
and having compassion for yourself and others. So if you make a mistake, please don't beat yourself up over it. This is all part of being human and learning our lessons along the way, on our path to evolution and growth. So I'm doing what I'm doing as a mission to bring unity to people, because there's so much division, especially in this world of how politics are unfolding, and people, being displaced from climate change and the recent wildfires in not only California, but other parts of the world as well.
Yeah.
It's just, we're not going to have the outside external things to comfort us. We have to rely on our inner strength, and how we deal with ourselves. And if we can love ourselves and love others, that can really go a long way in helping you feel like you could thrive, and get through anything. Because as we've seen with these people being displaced from their homes at this time, in the world, it's it just shows that you built a life. It can get knocked down again. We could go through rock bottom and lose everything. But if you work on building your inner peace and strength and loving yourself and loving people around you, it can help you rebuild again. So, and that's what people need to know. We can't rely on outer things, but you have the strength within you to rebuild your life.
Yes, that firm foundation within you. Thank you so much. That was so good. You spoke to that so well. And that goes really nicely into coming back to your why and your values. You allowed your why and your values to be shaped and formed and to build a life that fit into that aligned with that felt authentic to that. You recognized when this corporate job and this life in the city is not in alignment anymore, even though the organizations you were working for was doing really philanthropic work. So sometimes I think it's important to point out that just because you're doing a good thing, there may be a time that it comes that it's not the right good thing for you to be doing anymore. And really circling back to what you value, and start looking at, what's my why behind this? You determine my why behind staying here has been this stability, but this stability, financial stability, is costing me in every other area of my life. So I've got to get aligned with those values. And you had a partner supporting you in that, which is huge. But talk to me about your why and values journey and how that informs you.
Yes. So basically, I thought about, like, sometimes I'm only human too. So I like to ask questions about, how can I live a better life? Or what can I learn to help me navigate a certain situation? So I'm always getting curious and asking myself, how can I improve my personal development and growth? And I try to put myself in other people's shoes. What would they want to know about their lives, and how can they navigate their situations as well? So my why and values always goes back to thinking about humanity. How can we suffer less? How can we do away with inner conflict? How can we live less from a state of feeding our egos, and instead coming and living from a spiritual place where we're compassionate and caring about not only ourselves but others. And it's always, life is complicated, relationships are complicated, but hearing other people's stories and reading about different ways of how to navigate certain situations, I just like to go on explorations of, how can I develop this different content to put a message out there that will make someone's day a little better.
Yeah.
So it's baby steps. It's not throwing a big framework at somebody and saying, this is how you get to inner peace. It's a huge journey, and it'll be a healing journey every day till the day you're no longer here on earth. So
Yeah.
try different modalities, and I encourage that. I come from a religious background of Roman Catholic, and I'm still
Mm.
true to my religion this day, but I'm more so spiritual.
Mm.
And I really think that people can find their way if they're just open to
Mhm.
trying different modalities, trying
Yeah.
different ways of healing, and just seeing what works for you.
Yeah.
Um, yes, and everyone will find something different, but there's always a path to feeling a little better and healing any trauma that you have.
Yeah.
And you can get there. It seems hard at first, but if you put in a little bit of work and find a support network like your
Mhm.
podcast and your community, Melissa, Embracing Layers Network, women really need that. And sometimes women don't always have the support system in their own lives, that when
Yeah.
you can reach out and be a part of a community like yours, where women are uplifting each other and not bringing each other down,
Yeah.
and trying to teach each other different lessons, I think we can come together and build this unity that we need right now in our world.
Yeah.
So yes.
Thank you so much for
Mhm.
that. Thank you for the affirmation and thank you for the wisdom. You have so much wisdom about this. Your curiosity really drives your learning. Your passion does. Your caring does. You are set. You're naturally empathetic. Like that's really built into. You're naturally intuitive, and that really drives how you proceed with yourself, with others, what you offer, what you share, and what you continue to learn. And so what you said is so true. Stay with it, ladies. There are ways and places and things that you can do to find that peace and that contentment. It is a journey. It is not an overnight fix. We are not here to, here's 5 ways to reach inner peace in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a
No.
it's a continual journey, but it's that willingness to go on it. Be curious, be kind, be empathetic, and learn from each other. That was just so beautifully laid out, and that is you. Your values are like you just described your values right in there. Like all those things are what you value and what drive you. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much for that. We've
Thank
talked a
you.
little bit about this already, but living out of your own expectations versus others. You have moved into this. You've seen the value of it. You've seen what it was costing you to try to meet all these other expectations. You've seen what it's cost the generations before you. You have now moved into this space where it's a value of yours in many ways to live from that authentic place. So talk to me about that journey and getting to this space where you really do live authentically there and how you help others to get there as well.
Yes. So the journey can be one where you feel lonely for a while, because you're excavating all this different messaging and content to help you grow as a person. But it's kind of like going on a spiritual retreat. For myself, that very much felt like it. I'd ask
Mhm.
questions, I journal, I'd say my prayers every day to look for answers. Whenever I was experiencing an issue or a problem, I would journal about it, and it had, you know, the answer wouldn't appear right away. Sometimes it would,
Mhm.
I'd have to ask this question to myself every day, either just in my own head as I'm going through the day, how am I going to get answers to this problem, and um, you know, um, how do I navigate the situation? So I'm
Mhm.
always asking questions through my prayer, through my meditation, and just in my head throughout the day. And I
Mhm.
found that through healing journeys, you do need to ask yourself these questions so that you can get to a point where you feel comfortable in your own skin and
Yeah.
you're being steered in the direction that you're meant to be and meant to go. Everyone has a destined path that they're meant for.
Mhm.
And I encourage you to look out for those signs that are telling you to go in another direction. If something's falling
Mm.
away in your life that, you don't expect it to go away, but you're trying to hold on to it, that's a sign that you need to let that go and move on to a different path in your life, because doors are always closing, and people
Mhm.
don't realize, okay, like, why is this opportunity falling away? It's because the universe and God has something greater in store for you. So it's just being open to signs, be
Mm.
very open to what you're feeling intuitively. Sometimes you'll feel that in your gut.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll ask yourself a question. You'll just feel an inner knowing in your heart,
Mm.
whether that thing is right for you or not. Um, and sometimes there could just be signs of, you overhear someone speaking in public or on a podcast or on TV, or you read a book, and like, a message just really lands for you, and
Mhm.
it's leading you on the path to heal, to not be afraid of healing, and you know don't don't let your fears get the best of you, because love is stronger. And if you feel alone and
Mm.
isolated, while you're going on a healing journey, that's okay, because you're never really alone. If you believe in spirituality, you do have guides and angels looking over you, to help you through. So it can feel like a lonely journey at first to heal. And,
Mhm.
when you know it's the right time to do that for you, you won't be worrying about what other people's expectations are of you.
Yeah.
You'll feel free. It feels very liberating. And, a spiritual awakening is, it's the greatest gift that you can give yourself, is
Mm.
to heal your inner
Yeah.
wounds and move on with your life and go for what you're really meant to be doing in this world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gosh, so good. You're really good at this. You're really good at you
Thank
touch
you.
on things so well. And you had to trust yourself in that. And I think that is not, it's one thing to get the messages, it's another thing to trust them. How have you learned to trust that and not and I think sometimes we just get to a point like, I can't live like this anymore. I have no other choice but to listen to this and trust this and move forward because staying where I'm at is not working. Is that how it worked for you? Or was there a different path to really learning to trust yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. And I love that, because if you're deeply intuitive and you learn how to harness that intuition within yourself, you really know. Like, for me, it was a lot of nudges and breadcrumbs and signals and signs that I was getting
Mm.
to lead me down the path to pursue my writing again,
Yeah.
to write a book. For example, wherever I went or wherever I go to this day, I'm getting signs that are telling me to still, pursue this journey of being a
Yeah.
writer and an author, and getting my word out there. So it's a constant reminder. It's like this
Uh-huh.
radio frequency where you're getting these messages spoken to you,
Mhm.
um, and it doesn't ever shut up. Like, it's like on constant repeat. And I think, if you tune into that, the universe and God always has a way of communicating with you.
Yeah.
So to try to tune into that, harness that. I know if some people haven't cultivated that yet,
Yeah.
do some research and see how you can cultivate that a little bit more. And it's a recent topic I talk about in my recent free newsletter that I offer on my website. If you want to subscribe to it, is finding a spiritual solution to your problems. And this involves following your inner knowing and looking for these these signs
Mm-hmm.
and messages that come through to you on a loop. And that's
Yeah.
how you know it just sits right with you. If you hear a message, it'll sit with you and it'll just feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you know that's the path to go down. Some people need to learn how to cultivate it, and I
Yeah.
heavily encourage it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that cultivation piece because
Mhm.
of the fast-paced society we live in, we live much of our lives disassociated from our bodies. We just go, go, go,
Mhm.
go, go, and push it back. And so it does take some time. Sit down, pause, give
Mhm.
yourself space to actually tune in to what your body is trying to tell you, what your spirit, your soul is trying to speak to you. And take
Yeah,
some time to, and it does take a commitment to cultivate it. Once you do and it's present, it's there, it's present, and I mean, and I can attest to that because I've gone on my own journey. Like, I know it's just up to me to be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm feeling this and this, and it'll keep nudging you. It'll get your attention in ways you can't ignore until you acknowledge it. But yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the cultivation piece, because if you're like, I'm not getting anything, I'm like, when's the last time you sat down and quieted your mind? Do you set aside any time in your day, your week, to do that, to allow this to develop and grow?
exactly. And that I love that you brought that up because it's in that silence. Once you ask yourself those questions, you're looking for answers to issues you're facing and you want to be able to solve them. Ask yourself those questions in moments of silence. That's the
Mhm.
most powerful time to do that.
Yeah.
And just listen to your senses and what you're feeling, and even look at your dreams and see,
Mhm.
like what pops up for you in your dreams. Maybe
Mhm.
there's something there. There's a message there that can really be insightful to helping guide your next steps.
Yeah.
Um, so just be fully aware. Try to develop your awareness, because sometimes they say the answer is within you and all
Mhm.
around you. You
Yeah.
just need to uh, find it.
Yeah, and give ourselves space to notice it. I mean, honestly, and also
Yes.
somatically, pay attention to your body where you're carrying things. We carry so many of these things in our bodies, and when we don't give ourselves time to sit and notice that, that plays a role too. So thank you so much for that. So good.
Yeah.
All right. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. These are all the parts and pieces of our life, our story, our character traits that make up who we are. And I really feel like it's an important piece of the journey to really acknowledge those layers, accept those layers. We don't have to love all of them, but we need to acknowledge them and realize that we're human.
Yeah.
And those are all
Mhm.
parts and pieces of us. Talk to me about your layers journey.
Oh, there's a lot of layers here, and a lot of layers I needed to kind of release from through
Mm,
this healing journey. Um, I had a lot of because during the basically, I think with my layers, like anger, it was definitely one of them. Like
mm,
thinking it before I had completely healed, I had a lot of anger um and not knowing why.
yeah.
I think I bottled things up for so long before I had healed, and that's where the anger stems from because it never got released.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult emotion to deal with because you don't want anyone getting in your way or being anywhere near you when you're angry that way, because you don't want to make that relationship rupture in any way.
Hmm.
So I encourage people, if you're dealing with some sort of anger emotion, it's a go into a safe space where you close the door and maybe scream into a pillow or something,
Hmm.
um and kick and scream in your bed or something like that. Make it a safe space and release those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And they say if you shake it out,
Mm-hmm.
those emotions get released as well.
Yeah.
So there's different coping things that you could do to really release your body of what you're holding on to. Um, and they say it's healthy to feel anger. So if you're feeling it, don't shove it down. Don't
Mm-hmm.
suppress it. Definitely find a way of letting it out in a safe way.
Yeah.
So yeah, go scream into a pillow, go for a walk in nature. And they say screaming is really,
Mm-hmm.
really, therapeutic for you. And if that doesn't work, I'm sure there's a whole other host of strategies you could do to release that anger, whether it be journaling, listening to music, and just letting yourself feel it for a while so that you can process it and then let it go. So that is one that that one of those complex layers I don't like to have, because I almost feel like it's shameful to have that anger. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, oh, why? I have nothing to be angry about. What is that? Where's that coming from? So I ask myself these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think back to, oh, well, maybe it's because you bottled things up for so long. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
time to find ways to release these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very complex. And that was a hard emotion that I had to deal with through my healing journey, and find a way to purify my mind, body, and soul of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that anger can fester and find its way into your cells, and
Mm-hmm.
not make you feel so great. So yes,
Yeah.
that those were one of the emotions that I had difficulty with, and I know others do too.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought up the anger piece, because there's
Yeah.
so many misguided notions about anger. Anger is a clue. It is a clue to let you know that something needs to be processed, moved through, handled, and also that there's can be multiple ways to approach that. But you got curious, you moved out of judgment and shame and got curious instead, and started asking yourself questions so you could get to the why, and so then you could release it. I mean, and I think that's such an important part of the process. I have had to deal with anger as well from different things in my story. And my therapist would say, she's like, all right, we've talked about this today. EMDR is a therapy that I've used. We've used EMDR, but there's a lot stored up in your body still. So I want you to take a pillow and find a wall that you can hit with it. Find an anger room somewhere. Some cities have
Yeah.
anger rooms where you can go in and
Yeah.
box and kick things. She's like,
Yes,
because
that's
you
right.
need to, or the screaming, but your body, even if you've identified the why and maybe talked about some things and done some different modes, your body still needs to release it. So thank you for those examples. And it's such, I think anger again is just one of those really misunderstood emotions about what's appropriate about it. Also remembering too that there's some kinds of anger that can really motivate you to make changes in your own life, in society, and whatnot. So channeling it, but don't bottle it up. Don't try to hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. Your body can't carry it forever, and it's going to come out in a really unpleasant way, whether you're snapping your partner's head off or whether it manifests itself physically in some kind of going back
Exactly.
to that mental, emotional, physical health connection. So thank you so much for sharing that and your vulnerability in that, because that's something I think a lot of people experience, but they don't know how to approach, or they don't want to approach because of stigmas that they've heard in their lives about anger.
Yes, of course. And I've heard the stigmas can get in the way. So try
Yeah,
to find different avenues of letting it go and releasing it. It's a game changer.
it really is.
Help you, make space for more important things in your life.
Absolutely. It does.
Yeah.
It clears out space. You literally feel a physical lift off of you when you release that. I mean, I know
Yes.
for me and
Mhm.
my experience, I do. Thank you so much for that, Tara. All right.
Okay.
In living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, which is what you are doing. Talk to me about how that has impacted your relationship with yourself as well
Mhm.
as your relationship with other people.
Okay. So I think nowadays I give myself more grace. I used to
Mm,
be the type of person that would beat myself up or put so much pressure on myself to succeed,
mm,
um, almost to a point of where, like you get down on yourself for making a little mistake or not being perfect in a certain way.
mhm.
um, but when you start letting go of those expectations of yourself, you give yourself compassion and just meet yourself where you are. um, it makes life so much easier. You don't feel like there's a burden on your shoulders. um,
Yeah.
and you're just letting yourself be. You're going with the flow of life.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
all about being and living in the present moment. And if you can master that and learn how to really just embrace the present moment, um, and love yourself where you are, even if you made a little mistake, that's okay. That's part of being human.
Yeah.
So coming to a full acceptance of myself, and being aware of what my flaws are and where I need to improve, and
Mhm.
just being honest with myself and trusting that I could take care of these things. It leads to a much easier, more peaceful life, in a sense, because you're taking it easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're easier on yourself, that really creates healthier relationships around you, as I know it has for me with my family. um, I'm not expecting 10 million things of my family, because when you have a partner, you're not relying on them to make you joyful. We're 100%
Yes.
responsible to make ourselves happy. They're only one person and can't, carry the load of being responsible for our happiness.
Mhm.
So I think being a little lighter on not really expecting too much of our family members, um, I think that is a really big game changer in terms of creating more harmonious relationships.
Yeah. Oh, that
Yeah.
was so well said. Thank you for that. Yeah, we are responsible for ourselves. No one else is responsible for us, and we are not responsible for others' happiness.
Right.
Like, so
Exactly.
and it makes you come in when you don't, it takes the pressure off of the relationship too, to be something it was never meant to be.
Yes.
Yeah. So good.
It
So
really
good.
does.
Oh my gosh. So good. Okay. We are getting down to the rapid fire here. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Okay, so definitely podcasts. I love listening to a good podcast that really brings me a boost of motivation every day. So I
Mhm.
try to make sure that's a varied list of different people's perspectives.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're a big podcast fan, go listen to Melissa's Embracing Layers Feel podcast. It's really helpful. And then number 2, definitely writing. I love doing that.
Mm.
Meditation clears my cobwebs and, very noisy thoughts in my mind.
Yeah.
And then walks in nature and prayer, talking to God.
Mm.
So those are my top 5 that I love to do, and I incorporate pretty much everything of all of those every day.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. So good. I love that so much. All right. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Okay. Um, Joyful, fulfilled, rejuvenated, excited, and accomplished.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Tara, tell people where they can find you and follow you. This will be on our website, listeners. It's already there on our radio show page. It'll be on our resources page that's connected to the podcast. Just go to embracinglayers.com and look at that resources page. But tell people right now and give them a chance to, if they want to write it down right now, they can do that.
Yeah, sure. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Tara Mae Temple, which is spelled TaraMaeTemple. Or you could find me on Facebook at Tara Mae Temple. So you'll find that I post positive and motivational messages to really give you inspiration during this time of unrest. So I encourage you to visit those. And then I also have a free newsletter. You can subscribe to on my website for uplifting content on how to achieve harmony. So basically, my website is www.terrasweetawakening.com. So basically, it can serve you in many ways if you're looking for a little bit of support in your life on how to be more peaceful and joyful. And if you're looking for different strategies on how to solve a problem in your life, I wrote a recent newsletter about different ways you can solve those issues and find the answers you're looking for. So subscribe now, and I'll have that in your inbox. And then you'll notice on my website, if you're needing support with your healing journey, I'm also a mentor in that capacity. So I develop a personalized plan based on your needs on what you need help healing with. So there's a form on the website, and I determine if we're a good fit to work with one another. And I'm there to support you with a plan. So those are different ways you can work with me.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah. I'm also going to share in our show notes and on our resources page will be the link to where Tara and I were together on the radio show in the fall of 2024. We had a great conversation about the value of knowing your character traits, not identifying yourselves by your roles and your titles. It was a really, really good conversation. Highly recommend you go visit that as well. That'll be linked there. Tara, thank you so much for your time today. You are a blessing in the world, and I'm so happy to know you.
Oh, I'm so happy to know you too, Melissa, and your show and your words of wisdom are helping so many people. So never stop doing what you're doing. And I encourage you to, take a listen to all of Melissa's shows, because she's finding strong and really great role models in the women community, and you can learn a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. I know I learn a lot every week. Mm-hmm. I mean, thank you so much for your words of support and affirmation. And this is what it looks like, ladies, to support each other unapologetically. There's room for all of us to do this work and have these conversations, and it's necessary to have all of us involved so we can bring everybody into this community of taking care of ourselves well and knowing that prioritizing our wellness is good for us and for everybody that we're in association with.
Exactly. And that's once you take care of yourself, that's when you get to a place of inner peace. So don't stop caring for yourselves.
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again for your time today, for your authenticity, your vulnerability, your empathy, and your passion and care for women. I appreciate it so much. Audience members, take good care of yourselves this week. Sit in the quiet. Give yourself some time. Listen to those nudges. Trust yourself. Are you aligned in living authentically for how you were designed to live? Take a step back and take a look at that. You're worthy of that. The world needs that from you as well. And your relationships will thrive when you are showing up with the right people that value you as much as you value yourself. So take some time for that this week. Take good care and have a great week. Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Field Podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support. And engage with this framework in written form with your journal or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places You can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you and having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.